It's all about your merit and your skill set and your knowledge. They are struggling with the same things I had.
Supporting women in tech and business and Web3 communities.
That, glass ceiling.
Hello, Miss Lisa. Thanks a lot for joining us today into our virtual studio of Only You Bank. I'm really enjoying having you today. Thanks a lot for visiting us.
Thanks a lot, Igor, for inviting, and happy to be here.
Great. So first of all, I'm gonna ask you to introduce yourself a bit to our audience. Like, tell us please a little about what's your main activities right now, what you're focusing on today.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Lisa Gutu. I'm currently VP of Sales at Yapily, leading the GTM expansion into Europe. And my background is predominantly in startups and FinTech for the last 10 years. So hopefully I can share some insights and help you guys out if you're just starting your career or you're stuck in some shape or form.
Great. Thanks a lot. So first of all, I'd like to talk about the beginning of your professional way. I'm curious about what kind of education you get from the very beginning. What was your intents of getting education at the very beginning of your career?
Yeah, of course. I think I got lucky from the perspective that I was a very nerdy kid and I was really into math and computer science. And that was like my favorite subjects in school since I was a kid. And because of that, I chose computer science in my college and I graduated quite successfully. I thought I'm going to be a developer, but I understood that the component that is missing is actually talking to people. And it looks like I'm an extrovert. So I might need to slightly adjust what I want to do. And in my uni, I chose finance and economics, again, just because of the math and because I could study quite interesting subjects there and delve into things I really enjoy. So I got, I would say, quite good mix in my education that allows me to continuously grow and be able to do what I really enjoy since I was a kid.
Okay, so that's quite curious. So you was more into math and programming education, right? And how did you get, and in what age you get that you want to start your own business to become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, that was a very unexpected thing in the sense that even if I was really into math and computer science, I was doing a lot of volunteering, and I was volunteering for green communities, but also for basically, let's say, the youth network within Europe that were enforcing or helping NGOs with technology in the sense of how can you operate on open source technologies, or for example, how can you operate in a country where you don't even have a possibility of freedom of speech, or there's a lot of, let's say, influence in mass, and how do you deal with that? So I was quite focused on that side of things, and I was progressing quite a lot in that sense that I was doing volunteering for at least, I don't know, 5-7 years. By the time I was already 20, I was like an executive member of a board of such an organization, which was like Cooperation Development Network of Eastern Europe. And I was quite often in Brussels for meeting with Greens across the network. So from that perspective, I always thought that regardless of my study, I will end up there. And then by lucky chance, at a startup kind of, a weekend build, I started with the idea of a money management app because, I was struggling to part-time working, studying, volunteering. So, sleeping just a few hours a day. And I really wanted to make the most out of my money. So that weekend, it kind of started with the idea of creating a money management app to help students and people that are just starting their career to manage their finance. So we've been spotted by a person that became my mentor for a very long time, and he was able to help me to really excel at that side. And this is how I started Venture together with him, really. And up to this date, he's still my mentor and he helps a lot, and to just understand how business works, or how can we do more with our balancing our personal and business life and things like that. So it was kind of a mix of luck that then ended up in being my career because I enjoyed it so much. And to this date, I'm mentoring other startups and other people that are just starting their career, and then they are struggling with the same things I had many years ago.
At what particular point you realize that your way is to be an independent businesswoman, not the employee? In what particular moment it happened?
Well, to be honest, I mean, I'm still an employee if you think about it. So I think I will definitely do my business again at some stage of my life. But the difference is that, like, for example, when I just started, we didn't know much. And at some point we got stuck as it was a choice of either we do a neobank or, we pivot to white label solution. And we chose the second because we just didn't have enough background and enough just tools and possibility to scale at that stage. So I think right now I'm just covering those missing spots or blind spots that I still have within my knowledge before I can start, let's say, a more serious business again. So for example, now I'm really focused on GTM. I really love products, so that's something that I definitely want to do more. I've done it in the past a few times on a few occasions, but that's something that, for example, it kind of like I really enjoy building new products and scaling them. And that's something that, for example, I really want to close as the gap. And of course, relationship with investors and scaling your community is really important. So there is just a few bits that are missing. However, I think when choosing between different paths, everyone has their own way or everyone has different aims in life. In my case, I want to make an impact. I want to leave something behind me. And in my case, in the first place, that's my career. But then also I'm really trying to make sure that my personal life is balanced out in that sense too.
Great, great. I believe it will be useful if you'll explain to our audience what you mean by GTM.
Yeah, of course. So GTM is go-to-market strategy, is basically understanding if you want to launch a product into a new market, how can you do that? You need to really understand maybe the local players, the who is already there in your competition. How can you do things better than them? How you're going to reach your audience? What are maybe the specifics around culture or things that they are doing differently from your current market where you are? And also being able to understand from the product perspective or perhaps from legal or compliance perspective what is missing to be able to go there. So that's something that I've been doing across my career, and that's something that I excel at. So that's one of the reasons why I think, for especially if you are trying to launch your own business, that's one of the most critical things you need to have. And if you're a founder and you don't have that as a skill set, you definitely need someone within your team, because that can save you a lot of money and effort, both on product but also on marketing and sales effort. So that's a very, very important thing to do in any business.
Great. I agree. Thanks a lot for sharing this useful insight. So next, I'd like to move to more like focusing on your female way, female perspective on business and professional life nowadays. Since our project is focusing on women, we want to know a bit more about your personal view on this. So at the very beginning, maybe since you started your education, since you started your volunteering, your personal career, did you face some sort of discrimination on the gender basis in one way or another? Did you ever face that?
When I just started, I was probably, again, quite lucky in the sense that I'm originally from Moldova. And I think, at least in the IT community there is zero discrimination in the sense that regardless of your gender, it's all about your merit and your skill set and your knowledge. And there is no differentiation whatsoever. However, when I moved to London, already, let's say, at a bit later stage in my career, I could feel that different quite massively. That's what, for example, when I was choosing my next companies I would work for, I was really cautious about that element and making sure that the business I'm joining does not have that, glass ceiling which I could reach just because of, who am I? So from that perspective, I would say that it's quite important for women in the community to, when you join a business or even, a team within that business, to understand, again, do they have anyone in C-suite? What is the gender balance there? Because that tells you a lot about the culture and the team you're going to join and how things are going to operate in the long run. and that helped me a lot to choose the right companies with right cultures. And I'm quite proud to also help in, let's say, my colleagues and my team members to also do more and empower them to do more, to continue to evolve this culture, to, just show that we can do more and we can work quite inclusively. So I hope things will change. But at this moment in time, what I've seen in the UK, it's not as close to 50-50 gender equality. The gap is pretty massive. And unfortunately, you have to be really careful which company you join.
Yeah, that's true. Unfortunately, we do hear this quite frequently nowadays, What is, from your perspective, like, different initiations on supporting women in tech and business and Web3 communities? What's your perspective on this kind of movements? Like, are they useful? Are they enough to fulfill this gap, to like make things go like more equally, or not? Or we still need to focus more and more and to do more and more in this way?
I have a bit of a biased opinion in the sense that, I would empower everyone, regardless of their gender. But in the sense of specific, probably industries, I think we can definitely do more because, as you said, like, for example, in Web3, it's quite a difficult task and it is very gender biased in that essence. So definitely there are specific industries where we can do so much more. It should start again at the top, and hopefully with more execs that are, women, we would see that switch and then we'll see that turning point. But I think these programs in general are helpful because, especially for women that are feeling that issues, they can see that that's not right, and you can find a better place to work in where your skill set is valued regardless of your gender. And that's something that I think is quite an important point for these programs. But to make a real change, that has to happen more on the exec levels and more on the switch of mentality of the founders. And that's something that could, in the long run, influence a lot of what kind of gender diversity you have within your organization.
Yeah, true that. Thanks a lot. I'm really curious about your personal perspective on the difference between, because you can compare like Eastern Europe and more Western, more developed Europe, let's say developed, okay? So especially money-wise, like, are the incomes equal in Moldova in some particular areas and in UK? Can you compare that? I mean, like, it's the usual point that women are still earning
Yeah.
less, like 20-30% less than men on the equal positions. What you think of that?
Again, funnily enough, in Eastern Europe, I think there is no gap in that sense, at least in the IT community specifically, which I know better. I don't know about the rest. There might be something there, but when it comes to IT, I have not seen any difference whatsoever in most of the Eastern European, Central European countries, really. But for whatever reason, here, at least in the UK, I don't know how it goes in the other markets in the Western side of Europe, but at least in the UK, there is indeed this gap, specifically in large organizations on scale. I think when it comes to smaller companies and startups, it is a bit more equal, but still not always. And I think it also comes to the point of when you join a job, how well can you position yourself? How well can you negotiate? And that's something that I think is just something that women can do better. And, ask for more and be really truthful about your skill set and feel a bit better that you actually can do things and you have to be paid equally. And that's one of the things that I've seen here. And it's not, the fault of the company only, it's also the fault of women that are joining the companies and not asking for more. And I think that's something that at least I'm advising my colleagues and also, some of the mentees that I had across different stages of my life, that look, you need to just, do more. If you want to switch job, at least ask for 10%, 20% extra. And that's the bare minimum. Ask around, see how you are valued, go for interviews, even if you don't want to switch. Just that helps you to understand your actual value. And then when you go for an interview, you really want to join, you then feel much more comfortable and empowered to ask for what you are really worth. And that's something that will help to close that gap.
Agree. I believe that's very useful for the significant part of our audience, definitely. Thank you for that. So to wrap up our today's conversation, what you can say to our audience, maybe to empower them, maybe to motivate them, or to share some insights like today's, just from you, from your side, from your perspective.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite quotes is never give up and always there for more. And that's something that kept me pumped and, up and running across all my career, regardless of how many people will tell me no. Even if it's, 100 times, there's going to be someone 101 that will say yes. And that's something that helps you a lot. And, just be persistent. And regardless what people are going to say, if you really want something, you can do it, you can learn, you can upgrade it, and don't be stopped by anyone in your career. And that's something that I learned good and bad times, and sometimes harsh ways, but that's something that helped me to be where I am now, to also be able to help others really, and hopefully in the long run to create a business that will be really valued on an international level. It's quite important to try to find a mentor, especially if you feel like you're stuck or you're not progressing. And like, you need to remember, like, every 2 years you have to progress in your career. If that doesn't happen, something is off. You either need to change your job or ask for more in your current business, or go for a mentorship program and just see what else can you do. Just because, you need to always progress. At the end of the day, if you don't, then you kind of become stuck, and it's just kind of doesn't go anywhere. So if what you want is to really excel at your job, even creating your own business, make sure you create a support system around you with mentors, with your family, with your partner, with really your friends, anything that helps. And that's something that is really important, because at the harsh moments you need this support system to help you and to give you new ideas and to help you just kind of, stay on float until better days come. So that's just something that I'd highly, highly recommend.
Great, great. Thanks a lot. So thanks a lot for joining us today. We really appreciate your time and your expertise and your experience and the thing that you're sharing it with us today. Thanks a lot for you. Have a great one.
Thanks, Sigar. Have a good day as well. Bye-bye.